Welcome to the Success Pick and Mix podcast with me, Nikki Raby. I began this podcast in 2018 and I've produced over 400 episodes with an emphasis on dreaming and doing. But I know there is so much more to building a business and life that you love. It's definitely a work in progress. For the last 25 years, I've built a portfolio career as an actor, personal branding coach, writer, speaker, and podcaster. I love my pick and mix and curating my personal brand. I want to support you to create success on your terms. I've helped over 1,000 people to build a personal brand, and yes, I will be sharing with you business strategies around planning, packaging, presenting, and propelling your personal brand. But there is so much more to my work than that. I'm not interested in formulas, templates, or sleazy pants sales techniques. You know the ones. Instead, how would it feel to do things your way that align with your personality, circumstances, and goals? I'm going to be sharing conversations with some of my favorite people who are creating success on their terms to provide inspiration and encouragement. Also, there will be mini episodes where I take you behind the scenes, sharing how-tos, my coaching toolkit, chats about mindset, money, building momentum, and all through storytelling. After all, my clients have been known to call me the Queen of Analogies. So, thank you in advance for spending some time with me. Feel free to subscribe to be notified of the next episodes and follow across social media at Nikki Raby. You can catch up on previous episodes via my website, nikkiRaby.com, and also pick and mix, if you like, from my freebie shop. Right, let's crack on and start today's episode. Hello, it's Nikki. Welcome to part 2. Let's get straight in, shall we? Oh, also, if you haven't listened to part 1 and you're not sure what I'm wanging on about, go back to the previous episode. It will all make perfect sense. So today I am using a risk assessment analogy, going back to the house structure that I was talking about. So the parts of your life that are really important. And when you have a survey done, when you move house, there is this sense where they are looking for the safety now and in the future. So you will get a rating of 1 to 3 and they will gauge what that answer is based on what is going on. So for something like a bathroom, for example, they are going to be very conscious about what's happening right now. So they might look at it and go, wow, there's beautiful tiles and I wonder what bath scent they use there. But if they had a tiny bit, a gap between the tiles, it would probably increase in terms of the safety factor. Because if water starts coming through, it's going to be game over and you don't want excess water or leakage or dampness in your house. So that would probably boost things up. And I see that in terms of the parts of my life that I really value. And I'm going to use the example of health and fitness first and foremost, that when you have challenges as health, even though you may not have previously given it much attention, you really do notice that knock-on effect into other areas of your life. So it may affect your money making, it may affect your ability to have adventures or fun, it may affect going out and about with your children or spending time with family because you might just not feel up to it. And these parts of your life, I urge you to look at them in terms of that risk assessment. What is going to happen if you don't pay attention to them? Now, that's not to scare you or anything like that of going, oh my goodness, this is my wake-up call. I've got to do something about this immediately. And how am I going to do it? And I've got to make an overnight change. That really isn't the case. This is about you going slowly but surely and asking yourself those questions, maybe around what small things could I do to increase this score? To really notice that I am working towards who I want to be. So one of the things, for example, and my goodness, I'm not saying like, I'm a perfect mother, be like me. But one of the things that I have noticed, obviously, parenting and being a mum to my two, to our two, is really important to me. And one of the things that I was noticing was that the kids were coming home, and Luna only does 2 days at nursery, but certainly my eldest is at school. And every night after he would come out from school, he was so hungry, and therefore, because he's a little bit like me sometimes, so miserable, so whingy, all of the things, like most kids are. And so I was looking, instead of going, oh my goodness, I've now got to go back to the drawing board of what it means to be a good parent, I thought, no, I've just got to get organised. We can't actually wait for that moment, even though it's like a 15-minute walk. That 15-minute walk is basically going to be better if he has something to nibble on the way home. And so that's what I want to say in terms of your risk assessment of the different parts of your life, that I really had to go to the worst possible scenario of going, oh my goodness, I'm going to be picking my kid up for the next 6 to 10 years, probably. Maybe not at secondary school. He may have binned me off by then. But certainly for the rest of his primary school years, do I want to have this every single night, 5 nights a week until that time? Absolutely not. And so the worst possible scenario is that I would dread that time would be really unpleasant. So this is what I mean about just going, oh, okay, it's easy to do this thing. I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to see if I can play around with that. So I want you to look at those parts of your life and also check in with, I guess, the white space that you want to pay attention to. So the equivalent of a blank piece of paper. And I know that so many people have this someday list. Like, oh, someday I'd love to do that. Or I'll do that when I retire. I'll do that when I have more money, when I have time, when I'm less tired. I'll do that when I'm a grown-up. So many people make these very flippant remarks about life. And what I've noticed is, and maybe this is turning 40, but I've really noticed that nobody is going to come and make this thing happen for me. If I want to do something, I've got to do it. And that's almost really annoying sometimes, because there is this, we all watch Disney, and sometimes we see it in terms of reality TV shows, that there is one person who can unlock the door, or you see it with famous people so many times, like, I had all this money, I had all this fame, I had this big house, but still I wasn't happy. And for a long time, I couldn't quite get my head around that, because of course there is that point of like, just be bloody grateful, come on. But I know that sense of going back to your value point of view. So for somebody that is rich and famous and all of those sorts of things, maybe one of their values that was coming up again and again was independence. And the fact that they now have to check in with security, or they have a schedule that is built up for 2 years in advance, maybe that is suddenly not in alignment. But one thing that I've really realized is I used to do a lot of work on the present moment. So when I would do this exercise, I would write down the sections that were really important to me. But what I would do, and the plans that I would make, were simply for the things that were going on right now. And if I wasn't careful, I wouldn't take into consideration the future stuff. And this is a really interesting shift and way around to do things, because it really makes you notice, do you have one eye on the future? Do you have one eye on the future ball? And I know sometimes there is this pressure that we sometimes think that all of that stuff is going to happen later, it's going to happen organically. But what I want to say for you today is that it can start now. And there's absolutely no reason why you can start carving out time and space for that stuff that is not in your present life just yet. So maybe, and I've been talking to somebody close in my life about this, they want to do an extension and they've waited until the mortgage terms have changed on their mortgage. And they're now at that point, even though they're like, yeah, we're going to do it in a year and a half or something like that. It's always been a future thing. But there's been something that I've observed in them now where they've started to research. They've started to play around with the idea that this is happening. So rather than, we said we'd do it in 2 years, rather than 2 weeks before the 2 years is up, they're starting to play around with things. In fact, they said to me, have you seen that program on Channel 4 all around different extensions? We really like this. We weren't sure about that. That would really work in terms of the space and the budget that we have available. And so I guess my takeaway for you today is to make sure that you've got enough white space where you can really focus on dreaming. And I know that is really, it sounds really indulgent to say it because nobody ever said to me, like, be really clear about what you want, indulge yourself in daydreaming. Daydreaming or being creative or using your imagination, they weren't actually seen as great things. But today I want you to do that. Even if it's like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk around the block for 10 minutes and I'm going to take a question with me and really think about what I want or what makes me happy or what changes that I want to make. Give yourself that time and space, completely and utterly focusing on that and see what comes up. I know so often, and this is definitely a practice for me, meditation. I'm sure those of you who are great at meditating will be like, Nikki, this is exactly why you need it. But I am that person with one eye open going, oh my gosh, how much longer? I don't want to sit in this anymore. I'm done. And no, that's when the work begins. I've actually started a practice of EFT tapping, which has been really interesting recently. And there's something about the movement for me, that clearing of it. If you're not aware, do let me know and I'll send you some videos of things that I've been enjoying recently. But there's something really nice that I like about that in terms of it feeling active and feeling like it's moving in the right direction. So my 2 tasks for you today. Number 1, the risk assessment. What's going to happen if you don't do something about these things that are important to you, that you really value? Or what small changes could you make? Or based on how you're spending your time right now, are these having an effect on your future life that actually it's time to make some moves? And secondly, are you exploring daydreaming? Are you giving yourself that white space, that time and space to really think about what you want and seeing it as important? I know for years it was really championed that we can multitask and we can do all of these things and we can, I know in the mum world it was like, you can grow a business whilst you're on your maternity leave. But what would it be like just to have that time and space for you? I would love to know, as always. This week, I would say if you need additional support, you can book a one-on-one session with me. You can go to nikkieraby.com/coaching with Nikki, which is NICKY, or you can go to the planning and goal setting section of my website. There's loads of really great resources there, or equally my pick and mix shop. There's lots of things to get your teeth into. So I hope you found it useful. Please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for listening.